How you guys all doing? Good? Good? You're all game developers. You're an understated bunch. I know that means you're doing fantastically. Very good. Yeah, so I hope you're all doing well. This has been my first time back in Dunedin for a while, so it's always nice to be around here. I saw a lady walking her cat, and a restaurant that's going to be selling hippopotamus on their menu, and I want to eat that. I really want to eat that, so I hope that they do that before I leave. But yeah, it's an exciting time. So I kind of was trying to figure out a name for this talk for in the days before this, and I figured I'd call it "I Play Games Wrong" because it's what my channel description is, and it pretty much sums it up right there. To give you guys a bit of a backstory, I've been in the games industry since about 2013, working with the guys at Runaway down in Dunedin, who are a very lovely, beautiful bunch. Don't tell them I said that. So I started off as a gameplay programmer. Oh my god, my slides are all wrong. Ah! We're off to a great start. I started off as a gameplay programmer working on Splash Ocean Sanctuary, so we make games inspired by nature. Splash is on the iOS and Android store, all very good. But since then I've also I've started taking a full-on design role, working on a, as of yet unannounced, Google Daydream game, which is exciting, mobile VR, good time. That's what I do for my day job, and this is what I do for my side gig. I basically build controllers out of really weird shit, and I play games with them, usually really badly. I've picked these slides out very carefully so that it looks like I'm really good at these things. In reality, I'm really terrible, but there's about 30 seconds a week where I do something awesome. So it's kind of a weird thing that got me in this position. I kind of started out playing, I was streaming in late 2015. I was playing Rocket League, trying to be all MLG Pro. That lasted about a month before I gave up, but I was still playing it, and a friend of mine who I went to high school with, who knew me as that guy that should have spent all his time playing guitar instead of Guitar Hero, he was like, oh, you should play bloody Rocket League with your Guitar Hero controller. I'm like, that's fucking stupid, why would I ever do that? That's really, really dumb. And he's like, no, you should totally do it. We sat down and we sort of all right, well, if I had to do it, I've mapped the whammy to my moving forward and backwards, my strum bar, all the buttons on the neck. I finished up with a plan, and then the next day I gave it a go, and it went really, really badly for about an hour until this happened. So I'm moving along, I see the ball pop up. It was basically my year's goal to get one single aerial goal. So for those that haven't played Rocket League, it's sports ball with cars, and you can fly in the air and you can hit balls, it's great. I wanted to fly in the air, hit the ball, get a goal just one time with the guitar, and that would be my life. The ball comes up and I see it, I'm going for it. I immediately lose control, start flying out of the bloody, spinning out of control on my bloody head. And my teammate hits the ball, bounces off me in the goal, and because I'm the last one that hit it, I get the credit for it. And I'm like, fuck yes, done, I got it, that's my life. I can retire now, I can give up game design, I can do everything, my life's done, it's never gonna get better than that. And for the next 2 hours I played like shit, and went to bed, still feeling really happy about this. Woke up in the morning and I checked my Reddits, as you do, and one of the first things I see on there is guitar controller aerial, and I'm like, who did that? And I went and clicked on the thing, I'm like, oh, that's me, I did that. So, that was all very exciting. So, since I was now famous, officially, I was like, all right, let's do more stuff. So I, played a few different games. I played Counter-Strike, tried to get positive KD in any kind of game, which took me about 3 weeks, and then as soon as I got it, I'm like, I'm done with this because that was really painful. It was fun, but really painful. And then I started getting other controllers like steering wheels and dance pads, which when I got the dance pads, I had this really bright idea of playing World of Warcraft with them and getting from level 1 to 100. Took me a month of real time and about, I think, 5.5 days of playtime. So basically I would go to work, I'd come home, I'd clock in 4 or 5 hours, go to bed, get up, go to work. Every day for a month, and by the end of it, I was very, very sore. I think the last weekend I spent 25 hours streaming over that 48 hours, and yeah, it hurt. But it was worth it. It was a lot of fun just to say that I was able to do it. And it was at this point where I was like, this is kind of becoming more than just a good meme. I just played World of Warcraft without using my hands. I was no hands, no mouse, no controller. No mods, no macros, or anything like that. I was like, well, it's really exciting because you know, say if someone else out there wants to play WoW and they can't because they've got some physical disability, it's like, you can, it was at this point that I was kind of figuring out, you can basically play any game any way you want. You don't need to play it the way that developers necessarily tell you should. So it kind of became a mission from here on out to be able to be good at games despite the conditions I put myself under. And it's kind of worked out well. After a while, I started to look into like actual proper, like making my own controllers and stuff. This is a power glove I built a while ago because I tried to get a Nest power glove and couldn't find one. So I was like, fuck it, I'll make my own. And it is reliable, but it's still really bad. But I kind of got into this point where I started, you know, building my own stuff. So for those that haven't played Overwatch, this is my life now, by the way. Orisa is a hero that just came out in Overwatch. She's a quadrupedal robot, and so she's basically like a horse. So I got a horse. I got a big-ass Nerf gun, and I played it with that. The horse controls moving forward and backwards, and that's it. The gun's used for everything else. And it was shockingly bad, but it was a lot of fun. Kind of, you get that, like I was saying, you get that like sort of 30 seconds where you do something good, and that makes it all worthwhile. But yeah, it's gotten to the point now where I'm just like building controllers out of real weird stuff like dishwashing gloves and bananas, and I got a whole bunch of Doritos, and I played Overwatch with that because of a bet. Which I still don't know why I did it, but you know, that's kind of the fun of it. I play Forza using my car. So I rigged up like the steering wheel, the gear stick, the pedals, the handbrake, all that kind of stuff. Actually works surprisingly well. The steering wheel is a bit funny because basically the way this tech works, this is a makey, by the way, which is sort of really simple Arduino technology. And you can turn whatever you want into a touchpad, basically. I know some of you have had a bit of experience with this before, but you know, we can use that to do a lot of different things. So I rigged up the steering wheel, so basically I wasn't turning it, but I was just moving the hands along. It's kind of like the best I could do without actually ruining my car's tires in real life. This one was a bit tough because I had to be able to see what I was doing, and I couldn't fit the monitors inside the car, so I kind of had to do some real weird shit to make it work. I put the monitors on the bonnet, and then, like, because it was the middle of the day, the sun was glaring. I'm like, shit, I got to deal with this. So I stuck a bed sheet over the front of the car, and like I had to duct tape it all up to make sure it didn't like blow away. And I hadn't met my neighbors yet. And so the car, like the front of the car is facing the house, the back of the car is facing the road. And there's this old dude who's like in his 60s walking by, and he comes by and he's like, he can see in through the back of the car, and he can see the back of my head, he can see the monitors which have like almost set up stuff. I was in the middle of setting up at the time. And the fact that it's all like hidden away, he just comes up, he's like, you watching porn in there? I'm just like, yeah, leave me alone. And that was how I met my neighbors, good time. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's the lengths I go to these days are bloody ridiculous, but it's worth it. It's just a ton of fun basically putting new fun into like games that we've already got, you know. I love it, eh? Like, one of the things I love doing is trying to build stuff that is themed around whatever it is I'm playing. So, you know, Forza with a car, or, you know, a giant mechanical quadruped with a horse. For instance, Sombra in Overwatch, I'll reference Overwatch a lot because it has such like a diverse range of characters, which is fantastic. But she's basically a hacker lady. She's got a glove, you know, she goes did and she's got a gun. So I was like, all right, I'll build my own I tried to get the Nest power glove, didn't work. I built my own one. And also rigged up a little Nerf gun as well as a sidearm. So that handles aiming and shooting, and this handles the like movement and abilities and stuff. Doesn't work that well when you're trying to like hit two buttons at once. You kind of end up, your hand gets real jacked after a while, which is a bit rough. But you know, still good fun. That one kind of worked out well. Zenyatta's a bit interesting. He's a floating robot monk who shoots orbs that float around his neck. Kind of had to really go for a stretch on this one. Basically, I got a balance board from Rebel Sport, which ended up being way too small and really hard and bumpy. And I basically put aluminium tape around the edge of it so it was all conductive. And I put contacts on the floor that were in my movement, so I had to like balance on it, lean forward, backwards, left, right to move. and then a couple tennis balls. I made a necklace, and I tried to make a necklace, and I had these tennis balls that I'd try and throw at these targets on the wall till I do the different abilities. That ended up not working because apparently if you just throw something at another thing, the bloody thing, the circuit board doesn't pick it up. So, and I lost my balance after about 10 seconds. So I was this guy like just trying to prop myself up on this thing, touching balls to a screen. I'm like, this is fucking stupid. This is really, really dumb. But you know, it's a lot of fun coming up with these real weird things. The theme of whatever it is I'm trying to build is, it comes into play a lot for what I'm trying to make. Yeah, it's a great time. It's kind of this fun thing where it's like, you know, typically a lot of the games we make are designed for whatever controls we've got. You know, you're trying to make games for your mouse or keyboard or controller. By the way, I Google searched mouse and keyboard, and that was one of the first things that came up. If anyone knows how to get that Superman Returns branded mouse and keyboard, I really want it, because that was the best Superman movie of ever. If you can't tell, I'm being really sarcastic or shit. But I really want it. It was awesome. So yeah, instead of designing for the controls we've got, we're designing the controls for the games that we've got. And it's this real weird, like, backwards thing, and it's a lot of fun. Like, I love doing stuff like this. And it's, you know, it's something to consider, I think, for the future, because there's a lot of people out there, I mean, who aren't just doing it for a shit joke. They're doing it because they need to, you know, if they have some kind of physical disability that doesn't allow them to play, like, hold an Xbox controller the same way or something like that, like, they're going to need to play the game somehow. So I think there's a lot that we can do in order to make things easier for them. I mean, the main thing, the first thing that comes to mind is just like button remapping. It's really simple. And most games do a really great job of this. You know, especially with mouse and keyboard, you can basically remap whatever you want to whatever you want. And it's great. There are a few games that I've noticed in my time trying to build these things that don't do it so well. So, you know, I started out with like pre-made controllers before I moved into building my own stuff. And all this like tech is based off like keyboard and mouse. That's how the computer picks it up. So that's nice and easy. But if you're trying to rejig other controllers, sometimes the game will pick it up as an Xbox controller or something like that in the hardware. So it gets a bit tough. For instance, Overwatch is almost perfect, except if you try and hook up any controller that isn't a standard Xbox controller, because the game detects it as a standard Xbox controller, it can't tell the difference. It always assumes that your left stick is for moving and your right stick is for aiming, and that is a gigantic pain in the ass. Because even if you remap moving to, say, A, B, X, Y, it still will use the left stick for moving. And it's kind of tough because you never know if somebody's going to need to use the left stick for something else, for whatever reason. And it's one of those things that's like, it's almost perfect, but there's just that little bit of usability issue there for people that might need to use it in different ways. On the flip side, Brockett League, one of the reasons that is like one of my favorite games ever is that you can map literally anything to anything. It's great. Like, I could make jump up on the stick if I wanted to. And I don't know why you would ever want to do that, because that sounds horrible, but you can do it. And it's great because it lets you rig up any kind of layout you want. And it works nicely for like using other controllers like Guitar Hero controllers or something like that. But, you know, if you're using any other kind of tech, you can basically just make it work. And it's great. Yeah, so to kind of go a bit back onto the tangent I was on before, because I have no skills in ordering my talks. There's this idea of like putting new fun into old games, right? So like there's a lot of different ways that we've seen this before. For instance, any of you that have played Nuzlocke runs in Pokemon before might have seen this image. And for those that don't know what Nuzlocke is, it's basically playing Pokemon the same way, but with a few added rules. For instance, you have to release any Pokemon that faints, and you can only catch one Pokemon for the area you're in at a time, and you have to name all your Pokemon so that when they are ripped away from you unceremoniously, it hurts that much more. It's fantastic. And I once tried to do 5 of these at once. Basically, I had 5 emulators set up and 1 controller. They're all listening to the same controller, so when I moved up on the D-pad, it would move all 5 characters up at the same time. Tried that. It worked for about a week until I didn't pay attention to one game, and then everything lost, and I got really mad. Wasn't a smart idea. But, you know, there's other ways of doing it too. Like, for instance, playing Dark Souls without rolling or dodging or any evasive maneuvers, which just sounds like masochism to me. there was an old game type in Halo 2, which was fan-made at the time, called Infection or Zombies, which since then has now been put into the base game for every Halo since then, where everyone starts off with a pistol and a shotgun, and you know, you've got, there's one guy that has a sword who is on the other team, and he's got to try and kill everybody else. Everyone that he kills switches over to his team. So it's like this whole Infection thing. I'm sure you've seen it in a million different games since then. But as far as I can tell, this is the origin of it, and it was just, I remember it being really fun at the time because it was this thing that people came up with on their own. And it's kind of like, I think there's a lot of potential in a lot of the games we have to find new fun even after it's been released. Like, you see new game types being released in games and updates and stuff like that, which is all great. This is another example, Project Gotham Racing. So it has cat and mouse mode, where basically you have teams, you split into teams, and one character on each team is your mouse, who is in a really slow, really crappy car, and everyone else is in supercars, and it's your team's goal to get your mouse over the finish line first. So all the really fast cars are like trying to beat the shit out of the like slow car and everyone else. It's a lot of fun. That was in Project Gotham Racing 2 as a fan game, and then they brought it into the later games as well. And yeah, I mean, as far as like controllers go, you know, you've got your Rock Bands keeping the plastic controller era alive, thank God. For me, I'm sure probably everyone else is sick of it by now. I don't have enough plastic controllers laying out in my house yet. You got your DDRs, you got your Time Crisis, which is the best game of all time. And I wish that there was a game as good as this. I don't think I've seen it, even with like the Wii and everything that came out. I don't know, man. Time Crisis is spectacular. And you can't replicate that hardware anymore, which is a real shame because everything's all flat screen and doesn't use that same like CRT tech that you need to make light guns work. I mean, there are, you know, Wiimote accelerators and stuff, but there's something about that old tech that I just love so much. Different ways of playing games. It's fantastic. And then, yeah, you've got guys like this, who is a step above me. This guy is... There's a lot of streamers out there who are putting new fun into their old games. For instance, this guy is going for a Guinness World Record trying to beat Dark Souls with the most controllers he can. He's done it with bananas and bongo drums and pretty much everything you can think of. I don't know how he does it. I tried playing it with dance pads once and I gave up because that just sounds like hell to me. And then, you know, speedrunning, people playing games as fast as they can, which is just like, I don't know if you guys have watched AGDQ, but it's like, speedrunning has been such a huge thing, especially in the recent years with like Twitch being a big deal, and AGDQ is like one of the biggest events of the year for Twitch, and I just love watching these absolute memes of games, and people sinking like hours and hours into them just to try and play them 5 seconds faster than the other guy. It's a thing of beauty. I love it so much. And, you know, it's technically not a different way to play the game, but there's this whole, like, competitive community that goes around, like, the weirdest games that you'd ever think of. There's a lot of things going on there. Sometimes you can combine them. My friend, Peking Boo, speedruns Super Mario with dance pads. And he's stupidly good at it. I think his best time for Super Mario 64 is something like 20 minutes. It might be faster than that, I can't remember, but this guy's a hero. Like, this guy's an absolute hero. He plays, like, every game he plays with those DDR pads. He's also really good at DDR, which does help. I gave him a 1v1 in Rocket League one day, because I play Rocket League like you wouldn't believe. He doesn't. He plays DDR like you wouldn't believe. I don't. So we both had a game of DDR Rocket League, 1v1. I had the lead, but then he eventually just came through and absolutely demolished. It was a lot of fun, though. We're going to have another game of it one of these days. But, you know, there's just a ton of different ways of playing the games that we all know and love. And there's also the games that get developed with the controller side by side. So if anyone had been to the old Control GDC that they had this year, they might have seen this game, Spacebox, which is just so cool. Basically, it's like a space shooter, but you're in a cardboard box that looks like a kid made it. And there's a big tinfoil button on the front that you can smash to like shoot. And then you've got this metal colander you stick on your head with headphones. And like all the sound effects, like I think the developer made himself, so he's just like pew 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 pew, you know, all that kind of thing. It's just like, it's so cool, and you got to like raise the wings up to like bring up your shields. It's fucking great. I love it so much. You know, lots of really different weird things like Vinyl OS, where it's basically asteroids but on a turntable. So you like scratch the turntable when it changes the music, but it also moves the character. and you gotta like shoot all the things that come to your way. And zombie crawler, which is probably my favorite. Basically, you're a zombie going down a hallway trying to kill a human, and they built this conveyor belt with pockets sewn into this fabric, and you have to pull the pockets to move forward. And then when you get to your guy, you got to smash those green buttons on the side to like eat them up. Really, really cool. And like these things probably have no commercial viability at all, but I love how like developers are going the next level to like just build really crazy shit. It's a lot of fun to me. It's one of the things I love the most. And you know, like I was saying before, there's people with physical disabilities and stuff that might have a bit of a tough time playing. Able Gamers is great. They basically help out a lot of physically disabled players to play their games easier. So you know, they'll do like weird controller mods and stuff like that. They've got this fight stick that you see here that basically just has a few like easier to press buttons and sticks on them and stuff like that. And that blue box in the top right corner there basically is a bit of tech that turns anything into an Xbox 360 controller. And it's fantastic. I want one for my own weird shit, but there are people that actually need it in order to play the games that they want to play. And it's fantastic. One of the examples, well actually no, not one of the examples of that, because this guy actually uses a standard controller, but you guys might have seen this dude. Goes by the name Brockett League. He's a pro Street Fighter player. And he was basically born with this birth defect where his brain couldn't tell his arms or legs to grow. So, you know, like severely stunted growth in his limbs, can't do a lot of things like, you know, can't do a lot of things without a lot of assistance. But he can hold a controller and he can play Street Fighter and he plays it with his face. And it's fucking awesome. Like, he uses his cheek to move the stick and he uses his mouth to hit the buttons. And this guy is a god. Like, at some point, I don't know if he still is, but at some point he was the #1 ranked Chun-Li player in the world in Street Fighter 4. And like, there's a video online where he talks about it, like people will come up, like his opponents will come up and be like, is this a free win? And then they just get absolutely stomped. And it's a thing of beauty, I love it. Basically, this guy had to deal with, you know, not only his disability, but people telling him he was never going to be good because of it. And he's just like, well, fuck you guys, I'm going to be awesome anyway. And it's fantastic. I love it so much. Yeah, it's a great thing. So I guess all in all, I don't know if I'm coming in severely under time here, but I wanted to try and sort of think of something that all this is to do with that you guys could take away with you. I think the main thing is, like, in a lot of the things that I build, I don't really think much about it. I just think like, okay, I'm going to play WoW on dance pads, let's just do it. I don't put a second thought into it, I just build it. And more often than not, it's actually a ton of fun. So it's one of the sticking points I've been having, especially as someone who's started doing design full time. Trying to think of like systems for the games we're going to be working on and stuff. I get stuck a lot. And this is, I think, the thing that's really helped me is just to do stuff. Do the first thing that comes to mind. It doesn't matter if it's bad or not, because sometimes, even though it's bad, there's still some fun there and something you can find and take away and like focus on and embellish. So I mean, it's something you've probably heard a million times before, but I'm going to tell you, just like do first. Don't think about what you're going to do. Just think of the first thing that comes to mind and just make it, you know, especially when you're in that prototype stage. Just see how it goes. And it doesn't matter if it's bad, because there might be something about it that's good. And if it's bad, then you know how to, you know that you need to take a step back and maybe give it another go, which is something I've absolutely had to do with all this stuff. And yeah, basically, like, everyone's going to find a way to play their games. I mean, if it's not because they need to, it's because they want to. Like, I'm going to find a way to play any game that I want to. But there are people that need it too. And we can help them out, and we can make it easier for them just by giving them the tools they need and giving them the freedom they need to do whatever they want. You know, I think it's something to consider and think about as much as possible. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got at the moment. Thank you guys. If you've got any questions or anything about what I do, come say hi. I'm always going to be around. And if you want to chase me up on the internet, I'm on those things. So yeah, hope that was interesting for you guys, and thank you very much.